Hey everyone.
Hey everyone.
Welcome back to CrossFlix, brought to you by Cross Platforms, where we talk about movies and TV across all different genres. Today is going to be my spoiler-free review of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So, let's get to it. Okay, off the bat, I just want to come out with my personal score and say that as of right now, I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I came out of this movie liking it, but not loving it, which is what a lot of other reviewers that I watch have said. Some have absolutely loved it too, but for the most part, from what I see from a lot of people, is that they liked it, but they didn't love it like as much as they thought they would. I did go into it with my cameo expectations in check. If you want to see, I have another video about like the percentage of what I think would happen with cameos, and those that didn't come up that I thought would have, I wasn't upset about it. So that was okay. It was okay with me on that front, because typically I feel like that's where a lot of people have issues, is with not enough cameos for being a Multiverse of Madness movie. There's madness and there's a little bit of multiverse. It should have been called like 3 verses in madness, or madness in 3 verses or something, because a lot of people thought that this was going to be a celebration of all of Marvel, from Fox, from Universal, from Marvel Studios themselves, and anywhere else that Marvel's done movies, from Sony, anywhere else that Marvel has done movies. A lot of people thought it was going to be that. Part of me thought a little bit of it would be that. And honestly, it wasn't none of it, but it wasn't enough, in my opinion. I was hoping for a little bit more, but more on that later. Why I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 is because what I liked about the movie is also a lot of what I disliked about the movie, which is so weird. I've never had that happen in a movie before, where I like something just as much as I dislike it. But what I do like about the movie is that it starts off quick, and it just like, it keeps going. It doesn't really slow down until like the start of the second act, which kind of sucks, because the second act, I think, is the coolest part of the movie. But for it to be taking place in the slowest part of the movie also sucks. That's why I liked it, but I also disliked it. Back to the first act, the fighting was good. The visuals, it's so amazing how these movies now, some visuals are stunning and the others you can just straight up tell, like, oh, that's CG. I feel like now they know these movies are going to make $1 billion almost no matter what. So they just, not that they don't care, but there's less effort put into it. Now, the pandemic could have caused a difference in that. I get that, but that's just what I'm taking away from this movie. I like the feel to the movie. It does feel very comic booky. It reminds me a lot of Spider-Man 2, and it is the same director, so that makes sense. I like the characters. The addition of America Chavez is cool. They kind of just get straight to her point. Like, she has a backstory, but it's not expanded upon until in like the middle-ish part of the movie, and it's not that much of a backstory either. The way that they make her, you feel familiar with her even though we've never seen her before, and I like that a lot. I thought that was cool. Wong is awesome. I think he needs his own series. And then, of course, I love Doctor Strange as it is. What I liked about this movie, obviously, the multiverse stuff. But what I didn't like about it was that when they're going through a bunch of different multiverses, most of that was shown in the trailer. And they don't spend any time in any of those universes that they show in the trailer, or any other extra ones that they had added in. They don't spend any time there, which sucked. I thought they would have spent at least 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, I could have even handled 2 minutes at like 2 or 3 other universes. And then like there, just have some little cameos pop in, things like that. So I feel like the DC TV did a good job with that on the Crisis on Infinite Earths. They had literally everything in there. They had little cameos from characters from Michael Keaton's Batman, from the Adam West Batman, from the DC Titans that's on HBO Max. But they were very brief and just a few seconds long. They didn't need to be long, and it fit. It worked. They could have easily done that with this. So that's what I didn't like about the whole multiverse traveling aspect. But when they do land in the universe that they stay in for the whole second half, or the second act, and that's where the big cameos come in, and I had a lot of fun with them. I've seen that a lot of people don't like what happened to those cameos and like how it happened, which I'm not going to say spoilers because it's going to be a spoiler-free review. But I went into the movie expecting what happened to happen, so that's why I was totally fine with it and I was cool with it. Then comes the third act, and it just, for me, it's in the trailer, so there's like zombie Doctor Strange. I'm not going to say anything else beyond that, but I don't like what they did with it, and I think I don't like it because in general I don't like zombie things. I'm not a fan. I never really have been. There are very few zombie movies that I'll watch once, let alone watch again, and that kind of ruined this third act for me. Otherwise, I feel like if I love zombies, then I would have loved the third act and I would have loved the entire movie. Because I don't like zombies, and that zombie had a very big part in the third act, I think it kind of just knocked it down for me. It lost me. There's another cool little scene in the movie when he visits like the evil Strange that you see in the trailers, and they have this like sort of music fight. And what I liked it, but I didn't like it. What I liked was the visuals, and then I liked the concept and the idea and the creativity around it. But what I didn't like was the sound that they used. I liked the sound mixing, but I didn't like the sound. The sound was very classic horror movie themes, and I didn't like that because I didn't think it worked. I felt like if they had come up with their own horror themes, it would have been a lot cooler and a lot better because it would have been less cheesy. Everybody knows these classic horror themes, they're cheesy now. They're not scary, they're not haunting, but they're not bad. They're just not scary. And for this to try to be a horror movie, which there are some awesome horror elements to it, that scene wasn't as scary as it could have or should have been. And I also don't know if it was meant to be a scary scene either. But again, I like the visuals, I like the sound mixing, and I like the creativity behind it, but I didn't like the sound itself. Going back to the third act, I felt like it was very underwhelming. It could have been a much better battle, in my opinion, based off of like what happens at the beginning of the movie, what happens in the middle of the movie. Usually in these kind of movies, the first act will have kind of a small battle, and then the next act will have a bigger battle, and then the third act will be like the final battle, the big battle. This one went little battle, big battle, little battle. So it was just like, it was very up and down. And that took me a little bit more out of the movie on top of the whole zombie thing. Another character I liked that I haven't mentioned yet was Scarlet Witch. I feel Elizabeth Olsen's acting was the best it's been in her entire Marvel experience, and I'm sure we'll see her again. Sure, she'll be even better than she was. I feel like every time she shows up, she's better than her previous performance, which is awesome. It's really cool to see. And she's so powerful. A lot of people don't like how powerful she is, and I think a lot of people that don't realize how powerful she is or don't like how powerful she is don't understand like how powerful she is in the comics. Like, she is one of the most powerful beings in all of Marvel Comics. So when you go into it, expect to see some cool stuff from her. Some of the comedy was like every other Marvel movie. It didn't fit, and I don't understand why they reshoot and cut so much of these movies but keep some of the lame comedy in there. Like, you want to have comedy, like have it be good comedy. Like, there's definitely good comedy in this movie, but some of it just doesn't fit. It worked for Sam Raimi and Spider-Man because Spider-Man's a dorky character, but these characters in this movie are not dorky. So that dorky comedy I personally don't think should be there, especially with the dark horror route that they try to go with in this movie. And speaking of horror, there are really cool aspects to it. There are a few jump scares, and I mean, it's not like scary, but it wasn't scary to me, but I could see how people could get scared because it's not one of those where like, oh, we're going to pan away from the shot and then come back and it's not going to be there. Then pan away again and come back and then it's going to be there. It's just like, it just happens. So I like that a lot. That was really cool. In general, I haven't really seen much of Sam Raimi's movies. I've only seen the Spider-Man ones, and I think the newest Evil Dead, which I don't even know if he directed. I think he just produced it. So I don't know a lot about his horror history or any other history of movies besides what he's done with Spider-Man. So with that being said, I'm not going to knock him as director or anything of this movie. Again, I can barely make YouTube videos, so to direct a movie, doesn't matter what kind of movie it is, I can't imagine the difficult process it is. Overall, I give this movie a 7.5 just because the same things that I liked were also the same things that I didn't like, which has never happened before. And I'm sure because now I know what to expect when I watch it again and again, which I will, I'll eventually kind of come around to it. Just the biggest thing for me was just the zombie. I thought it was going to be a little part, and it was a relatively big part in the third act, and I'm just not a zombie guy, so it just didn't work for me. With that being said, that's my review, spoiler-free, of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Later this week, I might be having a full spoiler review coming out with a special guest, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.